Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Witch on the Holy Night. So last time, Sojiro finally had his conversation with Alice and it was pretty good. Now he has to pay rent for moving to the mansion formally. So yes, we unlocked also a side story, I guess, that we can do for today. Okay, let's do that in the archive. We're gonna do that. It's called Martha. Okay, this one. Martha. Walking around the mansion at night often led to mysterious encounters. Mist might suddenly fill the hallway, or doors might appear and disappear. Just when Sojiro thought he had seen it all, with the pig-shaped shadows mending the carpet, he heard the sound of a bird's flapping coming from the sunroom.
何事?
As much as he had become accustomed to turning a blind eye to such occurrences, the sound of flapping wings in the sunroom was too much to ignore. And not just one bird, or even two, it sounded like dozens. So many birds packed in the sunroom would inevitably lead to shattered windows and broken glass. Sojiro grabbed the broom and dashed toward the sound, prepared for the worst. Perhaps he was moved by his natural impulse to help or desperate self-defense. His mind flashed to what a teacher had said at school.
皆さんも部屋の整頓は心がけてくださいね。人間の自制心って環境に流されるらしいですから。ほら、それまで犯罪の少ない町だったのに、一つボロボロの家ができただけで近隣住人がみんな自堕落になるというあれ。環境への無関心さがすさんだ精神を作り上げるとか眉唾ですけど、正直なところブームだからって盗んだバイクで走り回ったり学校の廊下の窓ガラスとか割って回っちゃダメですよ。先生の仕事が増えますから。
At the time, school gangs had garnered a certain reputation among the youths.
窓が割れると心が荒れる。
Sojiro appreciated the basic message of the lecture as he ruminated over it. The thought of broken windows had given him a sense of urgency, as if the mansion's very moral foundations were at stake. His roommates were harsh enough with him already. Anything further would only lead to rampant rumors at school about their cruelty. He had to protect the honor of the student council president. It was also concern for his own safety that sent him rushing to the sunroom, however. Okay, what is happening? There wasn't a bird to be seen or a chirp to be heard upon his arrival.
あら。
It was only Aoko. Both of them. Only Alice and Aoko, sipping afternoon tea at the table that overlooked the courtyard, were present. What is that? Is that a table? Or what is that? The dozens of birds Sojiro had sensed with his mountain intuition were nowhere to be seen.
今ここに鳥が来なかった。
アリス、見た？
さあ、もう見えないのならいないということでしょう。
だって、いないよ、鳥。
It was a lie so blatant even Sojiro could see through it.
そんなバカな。
Yeah, they were definitely doing something. He knew for a fact that he had heard the flapping of a flock of birds. Unable to accept that there really were no wild animals in the room, Sojiro approached the windows with suspicion. There were no feathers or any other signs of birds having been outside either.
あ、夕食、鳥鍋？
Of course, Aoko would say something like that. as she watched Sojiro search desperately.
あいにく今日のバイトは魚屋さんだ。イワシでよければ土産にするけど。
イワシか。私あのパイ嫌いなのよね。いえ、むしろイワシのパイとか食べたことないのよね。
Sardine pie? What is a sardine pie? Aoko's stand-up routine was far ahead of its time. Sojiro backed away from the window and begrudgingly left the sunroom. Feeling Alice's all too familiar inscrutable gaze upon his back,
なんだいアリ。
just as he opened his mouth to ask her what she wanted,
あいった。
the bird, a blue comet, crushed into his head or crashed into his head. Look at Alice's face, annoyed. It needed no explanation. It could be only the robin, the mysterious bird that appeared frequently in the mansion. It shrilled accusingly. The truth was, the tiny aggressor that assaulted him just now was the greatest of the mansion's 7 wonders. So is the bird's name Martha? That's why the name of this, I guess this little chapter is called Martha? Maybe we'll learn more of this bird. Sojiro encountered all sorts of people along his route to work. Still new to the city life, he found the crowds of people outside the station utterly fascinating. In fact, they were the highlight of his commute. No two people wore exactly the same clothes or walked in the same fashion. With so many people, you would think that they would all melt into an indistinguishable huddle, but each person he saw was a different and unique. Sojiro was excited as a child as he looked out at the bustling, diverse streets of the city.
いや。
Closing his eyes in shame, he sighed. He was upset with himself for behaving like a bumbling tourist from the countryside.
ちょっと青信号で突っ立ってられるの邪魔なんだけど、何柄にもなく黄昏てるんだか。
Okay, this is the classmate with the brown hair. A stern and familiar voice behind him snapped him out of his navel gazing.
なんだ、マッドベアに行く途中だったんだ。私はコンビニのバイト。こっちは5時からだけど、
同じく5時から。くまりはどこか寄るところでも？
Or maybe this is Martha. Is this Martha?
本屋に寄った帰り、読みたかった本がなくなってたから仕方なく出歩いてたところよ。
なるほど。時間を持て余しているところも同じだね。
The girl who greeted him was Kojika Kumari, a work friend who was also in the same year at Misaki High. True, it would have been more accurate to say she was looking for a pretext to fight him rather than greet him. To Sojiro, Kumari had been the first person in the city he could look up to. They'd met at his first job, where she insisted he wasn't cut out to work the register after many mistakes and convinced him to quit working at the convenience stores altogether. In the end, she introduced him to his current job at the Chinese restaurant, the Mad Bear, a much better fit for Sojiro.
何その無理やりな顔。なんか元気ない。いつも以上にイラッとくるわ。しずきのいいところなんていつもピシッとしてる背筋ぐらいなのにみっともなく丸まってるし。もしかして悩みとかあるの？ マッドベアにタチの悪い先輩でもいるとか。それなら話ぐらいは聞いてあげるから。言ってみたら。
Though her tone was stern, her eyes were earnest. Having grown up in the city herself, she was irritated by virtually everything Sojiro said and did. Nevertheless, she still treated him like an equal. Introducing him to his current job was just one example of her sincerity.
いや別に悩みとかそういうんじゃなくて、不思議なことがあったというか、珍しいものを見たというか。
Sojiro could not find the words to explain the situation, but that did not stop him from trying. There were no problems at the Mad Bear to speak of. He liked it as much as his other job at Uetatsu, the fishmongers in the shopping district. In fact, his problem had nothing to do with work at all. No, his problem was a certain blue bird that would not stop pecking at him recently.
鳥につっつかれる？何それ、小さい悩み。でもまあ、青い鳥っていうのは確かに珍しいわね。
いや珍しいのは外見の話じゃなくて。
He stopped, unsure of how to proceed. It has stars on it. Yeah, words alone were not enough to convey the bird's plump body or the sound of its chirping.
綺麗な青色といったらマウンテンブルーバードだけど、日本にはいないわよね。青いツバメだったらいるかもしれないけど。
いやツバメじゃなくて丸っこいんだ。図鑑で調べたんだけど、どうもコマドリっぽいけど。
青色のコマドリは存在しない。しずきは縁日の青ひよこって知ってる？知らないわよね。いい、そう面白い話じゃないから忘れて。
I mean the blue chicks, or yeah, the colored chickens, not chickens, but yeah, technically they just colored those birds.
それよりそのコマドリって1羽だけなの？
Like they colored them in different colors. And then later on it just, yeah, it removes, it sheds the feathers.
ああ1羽だけだ。つがいは見当たらない。
突然変異だとしたらちょっとかわいそうね。生まれた時から最後の1羽だなんて孤独にも程があるわ。どんな鳥かは知らないけど、次に見かけたら優しくしてあげたら？自販機で10円を拾うぐらいの幸運は運んでくれるかもよ。
Her words were perfectly kind, but he could hardly sympathize with the creature after all the painful pecking to which it had subjected him. He wouldn't have called the bird lonely either.
いいじゃない、小鳥1羽ぐらい。そりゃ都会で鳥につつかれるのは珍しいけど、いい方の珍事よそれ。これがゴミ袋を漁るカラスの大群だったら困りものでしょうけど。
そういえば他にも気になることが。
Her example had reminded him of the mystery of the disappearing birds at the mansion. A stranger than strange event.
実は今あそこに見える丘に住んでるんだけど、出るんだ大量のムクドリが頻繁に。そのくせ街に出ると見かけない。
当たり前でしょう。街じゃ鳥なんて見かけないし、あそこは山だから動物は多いんじゃない？それよりあなた、あの山に引っ越したの？前のアパートは引き払ったって聞いてたけど、学校まで通うの大変じゃない。なんだってあんな偏僻なところに。
ちょっとした成り行きだよ。それに通うのは大変じゃない。大変なのは中の話なんだ。
It took 30 minutes to reach town on foot, and the 40 minutes to the nearest convenience store would be the real kicker for most people, but for Sojiro, it was no inconvenience. The real problem was that the dark forces beyond human understanding that lurk within the grounds.
すまない。それはクマリに話すことじゃなかった。それより今の話だ。町には鳥が少ないと言ったけど、どうして？
単に環境に適応できなかったのよ。何？鳥の話には随分と食いつくわね。しずき、動物好き？
どちらかというと好きな方だけど。
そう、私は嫌い。そんな私に鳥の話とかしてほしい。
Her statement could hardly be more self-contradictory. Minutes after telling him to be nice, a bird that attacked him, she was now claiming she did not even like animals.
そうだな。嫌いなだけで苦手でないのなら、知ってる範囲で聞かせてほしい。
Why is his face so serious right now?
痛いとこつくじゃない。いいわ、バイトまでの時間つぶしにしてあげる。さっきの続き、環境に適応できるかできないかってところからね。
Why did they
今で
go
こ
up?
そこんなだけど、岬はここまで大きな町じゃなかったんだって。
No, I actually thought they went up the mountain.
昔はその半分が森だったから、彼らはもともと森に適した生活をしていたのよ。
The way Kumari addressed them was of note. Whether she liked them or not, she seemed to at least have some respect for them.
でも近代化した町じゃ自然のサイクルも成り立たない。人間ってのはまず環境を自分たちの都合に変えるから。やぶかが多いってことで小さな川の流れを変えたり、町中コンクリートで塗り固めちゃえば鳥的にはお手上げよ。虫も森も少ないんじゃもう山に逃げるしかない。彼らは故郷を追われてこの森から山に移った。人間にとって都合のいい町は鳥たちが生きるコロニーにはなり得ないから。
そんなことぐらいで減るものか？その姿を見なくなるぐらいに？
そこまで極端じゃないとは思う。現にあなただってムクドリを見てるでしょ。比較の問題よ。町には人間が多いから鳥の姿は余計希少に感じるだけ。たまに見かけるだけで珍しいと思えるぐらいにね。
ああ、確かに。じゃあ鳥は町からいなくなっただけであの山に移り住んで。
Humans might not be able to see them in a day-to-day life, but they were alive and well nonetheless. Their habitat and lifestyle changed with the times, but they never truly disappeared. Sojiro's sense of relief was sharply disrupted by a serious look from Kumari.
あの山に天敵がいなければね。人間の手による乱獲か、移った先にいる生態系との衝突か。どちらにせよ、居場所を失った彼らの寿命は短いと思う。一世紀持てばいい方かもしれない。旅行鳩の例もあるし、気がついた時には取り返しつかないのが動物と人間の関係よ。
Passenger pigeons, yes.
旅行鳩？
そう、旅行鳩。体長は40センチほどもある大型の綺麗な鳥。オスの翼は深い青色で、胸は鮮やかなエンジ色。オレンジ色の目は嘘みたいに愛らしくて、その羽は時速100キロで長い距離を旅するの。
Her voice had a certain tenderness to it. She was daydreaming about birds she had never seen in the flesh.
北アメリカにいた鳩でね、春は南から北へ、冬は冬越えのために北から南に移動するの。今から100年以上も前の話よ。
But yeah, basically they're extinct, I guess for food. Just like how what do you call it again? The other one? The dodo birds, right? Such a waste, man. Such beautiful creatures extinct.
彼らはかつて地上で最も繁殖した高等動物だった。何しろその数は50億。当時の総人口より多かったっていうんだから圧巻よね。
なんと人間より数の多い動物がいたっていうのか？
うん。でも彼らは絶滅したわ。他ならぬ人間の手によって。16世紀にヨーロッパからアメリカ大陸にやってきた探検家たちは空を覆い尽くすほどの鳥の群れを見た。それが旅行鳩を記した一番古くて確かな記録。まあ私も本で知った知識だけど、太陽を隠してそのおびただしい数で森を覆って雪のように糞を落としていく光景なんて今じゃもう夢物語でしょうね。
Rain down droppings like snow.
でも当時の人にとっては悪夢だった。旅行鳩一羽一羽は美しいフォルムをしていてもそれだけの数が集まればそれはもう暴力なんだから。
But I guess, I mean, you could say that, right? Insane amount of them, but still.
彼らはその時点では森を破壊し人間を脅かす悪魔のような存在だった。営巣地は 10km にまで及んで1コロニーにつき5万羽近い鳥の鳴き声が響いたのよ。一瞬にして風景を変えるほどの鳥の群れと世界を覆うほどの鳴き声。冒険家たちが救んだのもうなずけるわね。
一つの住処に5万羽。
Sojiro trailed off as he attempted to count the number with his digits. He could barely count the number of people in the crowd outside the station. This would be far beyond its capacity.
でもそんな数の鳥を人間の手でどうやって？
ええ、当時誰もがそう思ったんでしょうね。でも話は簡単だったの。人間にとって旅行鳩は脅威でもあったけど同時に安価な実りでもあったから。渡り鳥の胸肉は美味しいでしょ？よく鍛えられてるから。そんな食材が空に向かって鉄砲を撃つだけでバタバタと落ちてきたとしたら、
I mean,
あなたは
I
どうす
guess.
る？
Yeah. You don't have any food, just point your gun up and then shoot, and then there, you got food.
まあ身も蓋もないことを言えば旅行鳩って鳥は簡単にお金にできる生き物だった。かくして狩りは延々と続けられた。落ちた鳥は羽をむしられて塩漬けの樽に押し込まれて次々と出荷された。それはもう狩りですらなかった。ただの消費。人間側は労働の実感も作業の手間すら感じなくなっていた。その頃旅行鳩は1羽1セントで手に入れることができたんだって。ここで言うならたった1円。
Jesus.
ほんと信じられる？その国最小の通貨1枚で売買される命がこの地球にはあったなんて。
Kumari spoke as if reciting from a textbook. Her voice, nevertheless, had a certain darkness to it. It is pity for the slain birds or disgust for her fellow man. Either way, the passenger pigeon's fate was a cruel joke carried out by humanity, typical, some might say. Poor Sojiro had yet to comprehend just how typical that side of humanity was.
けどそれはまだまだ序の口で、本番は19世紀に入ってからだった。人間の旅行鳩狩りはますます熱狂していった。学校で習ったでしょ？ゴールドラッシュ。南北戦争を経てアメリカ合衆国は急激に成長していく。西欧からの移民は増え続け、1870年には4000万もの人口に達していたわ。そんな移民たちの胃袋と財布を満たす材料として、旅行鳩は最高の獲物だった。で、もっと最悪なことに、人間は工夫する生き物だった。彼らはより早く、より多く、より簡単に旅行鳩を乱獲する手段を競い合った。目をつぶした鳩をおとりにして集団を誘い込んで、1日で1万羽以上捕らえたやつさえいた。 それでも彼らは乱獲に疑問すら持たなかった。
10,000 in a single day.
繁殖と狩猟のバランスは誰が見ても明らかに狂っていたのに。
Yeah, there's way too many. Like, the birds cannot breed anymore. To get, yeah, more birds out. Just hunting and hunting and hunting. She was doing everything she could to speak in calm, measured tones. Sojo, meanwhile, was completely enraptured by her words. Having been raised in the mountains, it was by no means a happy story for him, but right now he was more interested in knowing why it ever happened in the first place.
それ一方的すぎないか？旅行鳩だって数が減ってくれば人間には近寄らないんじゃ。
そこが彼らの不幸だったのよ。旅行鳩は繁殖力が非常に弱くて自衛手段を持たない鳥だった。大群で暮らすこと、それだけが彼らの身を守る手段だったの。彼らが50億の王国を築けたのはそれまで天敵がいなかったからなんでしょうね。先住民であるインディアンも彼らを乱獲することはなかったというし。けど入植者たちは自然のサイクルには点で疎かった。何よりあのおびただしい数の鳥が絶滅するなんて夢にも思わなかった。旅行鳩にしたら晴天の霹靂よ。まさか何世紀も遅れて海の向こうから天敵がやってくるなんて。そうして1896年、人間はようやく熱狂を冷ますほどの現実に直面したわ。たったの25万羽。それが確認された旅行鳩の総数。何もかも手遅れよ。急いで保護法が作られたけど、人間の習慣はそう簡単には変わらないわ。
I mean, no matter what laws you pass, you can't, stop every single person that's hunting them.
あるいは、
Yeah.
狩人たちはこう思ったのかもしれない。まだ25万羽もいるじゃないか。1000羽や2000羽ぐらいなら独り占めしても構わないだろうって。
And these are birds. These are not like, for example, let's say lions or tigers that can be much more protected. These are birds. Like, how can you protect them?
そうしてハンターたちは当時最新の技術、電報で旅行鳩たちの所在を知らせ合って、実に20万羽の旅行鳩を仕留め、4万羽を傷つけた。生き延びたのは5000羽だけ。この時点で彼らは野生で生きられる種ではなくなったのよ。
Soldier's face sunk into a scowl. No longer able to survive in the wild, he knew all too well what phrase meant. No wild animal can last long on its own. No animal can survive without a sufficiently large population of their fellow kind and sufficient feeding ground to support the group. Strength in their massive numbers was all the passenger pigeons ever had, and so once that was gone, they were as good as extinct.
それで旅行鳩はどうなったんだ？
最後に保護された旅行鳩はたったの3羽。
Only three.
シンシナティの動物園ではオス2羽、メス1羽の旅行鳩が飼育されたけど、1年でオスたちは死んじゃったわ。残されたのはメス1羽だけ。その時点で彼女は地上で最も孤独な生き物になった。名前はマーサ。北アメリカを旅する鳥たちの最後の1羽でありながら、ただの一度も空を飛ぶことができなかったカゴの鳥。結局29年で彼女はその命を終えたわ。
Age 29.
1914年9月1日午後1時。一つの種が終わる時間がここまで正確に残っている例は今のところこれだけよ。
The story of 5 billion deaths had finally come to an end. The birds had been swallowed up by the machinations of human civilizations. Kumari had intended to show her sympathy for the lost species, but emotional impact had clearly been all lost on Sojiro.
意外。できるだけ私的に語ったつもりだけど。受け悪いみたい。山育ちのあなたには憤慨者の話だと思ったのに。
いや、すごい話だったけど、整理がつかなくて、当時の人たちは自分たちの手で減らしておいたのに、なんで最後は保護したのかって。
Kumari stared blankly at him, eyebrows raised high. What he likely meant to ask was why humans would protect the last of the species. They themselves had hunted into extinction. Kumari could hardly be blamed for her bewilderment. Having been raised in the city, she failed to recognize the danger inherent in his cluelessness. He felt neither anger towards humans, or their base selfishness, nor sympathy for the birds, who remained in their natural habitat even at the cost of their lives. His upbringing had not provided him with the necessary sense of self-righteousness to produce feelings in either direction.
相変わらずよくわかんないやつ。まあ、私が言いたかったのは、どんなに強く美しく見えても、居場所から追われた生き物は儚いってこと。しずきくん、あなたが見た鳥は、その最後の一羽かもしれないわよ。
And with that, their idle conversation came to an end. It was nearly time for their shifts to begin, and Sojiro was the first to head off.
らしくない。何熱く語ってたんだろう、私。
Kumari remained in the park after Sojiro left. Martha, the last of her species, he had not been referring to the blue bird when she mentioned Martha, but
やめやめ。珍しいから特別視するとか、バカみたいだし。
she rubbed the back of her head, apparently angry at herself for getting involved in something that was none of her business. She and Sojiro were not even in the same class at school. He was a total stranger as far as she was concerned. The more something bothered her, the more she felt compelled to investigate it. It was a personal quirk of hers, and only the reason she had gotten so worked up about the passenger pigeons. Kumari's well-groomed brow furrowed. She had only spoken to Sojiro to make sure he was doing okay at the Mad Bear, or maybe it was that she had been strangely drawn to him. The more they spoke, the more she felt drawn to him.
まあ、見てて頼りないってのが一番だろうけど。話してみるとしっかりしすぎてるのよね、彼。
Amidst her muttered complaints, she recalled their conversation upon parting.
で、少しは街に慣れた？
To which he had given a weak shake of his head.
全然。何にせよ、覚えなくちゃいけないことが多すぎて。
He was trying his best to keep up with the overwhelming amount of new information every day. However, despite his apparent naivety and frailty, he was in fact trying to learn something he could about his new surroundings. But at the same time, there was no reason it needed to be so overwhelming in the first place. It was only due to his own naively subordinate frame of mind that he felt compelled to memorize each and every detail.
どうだろう。素直っていうのはちょっと違うと思うよ。単にそれがいいことか悪いことかまだ分かってないだけかもしれないし。
He awkwardly claimed.
そうね。でも、もしかしたらそもそも。
Kumari stopped herself amid train of thought, deciding to instead wave goodbye and take her leave. She sighed aloud every time she replayed the scene in her head. Work at the convenience store started in 5 minutes. She gave herself a light slap on the face in an effort to forget their conversation. She reminded herself that she had neither the energy to worry about other people's problems nor the obligation to do so. She had her own concerns as saving up enough money for college. Fighting against her parents' opposition every night was draining enough, so there was no room for burdening herself with other students' issues.
でももしかしたらそもそもか。
It was not like her to get so tongue-tied, she thought to herself under a strained smile.
ほんとはっきり言ってやればよかった。あなたは単にそういうのに関わる気がこれっぽっちもないんじゃないのかって。
He really did annoy her. Now, in a thoroughly bad mood, she left the park in a huff. That was a nice story though. Yeah, I really like that. Talking about passenger pigeons. That was cool. I mean, it has nothing to do with the story, right? But it was a nice conversation. When Sojiro entered the drawing room after work with a gift of sardines for his roommates, he came face to face with Alice sitting on the sofa.
や、こんばんは、アリス。
The sense of familiarity to be able to say I'm home when entering the mansion still eluded Sojiro. He headed straight to the kitchen to fill a bucket with water to keep the sardines fresh. But the icy stare on his back sent him anxiously to the refrigerator instead.
台所にバケツはダメなんだな。
Calmly accepting the change in plans, he shoved the sardines into the fridge and peeked back into the drawing room.
アリス、青崎は？
さあ、自分の部屋にいるか出かけているんでしょう。
Her reply was curt. He nodded and got to work cleaning the kitchen. There was nothing in particular he wanted to say to her, and also sensed that it would not be a good idea to start up a conversation needlessly. So he tidied up the sink area and washed the cutting board, wiped down the knives, and put away the cutlery so they could be easily found. Her black eyes monitored every action in his streamlined workflow. A rhythm that even the most seasoned housekeeper should be envious of. He would surely notice her gaze before too long. He bent over to store a large spot under the sink when it happened. As he began to stand back up, he locked eyes with Alice and then... Wait, what was that? What? Who's that? Wait, is that the bird? Before he could make another move, he felt something slam into the back of his head, a bright shock of blue. He knew what it was without looking. It had gonna be the mansion's blue robin. Wait, it was
洋館に
stalking?
戻ってくるなり、コマ取りに呼び出される。
Sojiro muttered under his breath. It was a rare situation that made Sojiro feel like complaining.
小僧、ちょっとそこに座るっす。
The robin chirped in its shrill tone. You see, this little creature that loved to attack Sojiro was the greatest of the mansion's many wonders. And with good reason.
舐めてるっすね。自分コマ鳥だって舐めてるっすね。ところで、鶏鍋ってどういうことっすか？それ美味しいんすか？今度見舞ってほしいっす。
Like so, Sojiro had an inkling of what the bird was getting at. For someone raised in the mountains, this was an utter nightmare. Why is the bird talking right now? Animals were not supposed to be able to talk. But is this just quite recent? Then again, having lived in the mountains for over a decade, he did sometimes feel like he could understand what the birds were trying to say. He knew it was just imagination, but sometimes he thought they even saw him as a friend. That was not the case with this bird though. Sojiro had a realist attitude toward wild animals as a result of being so familiar with them, in contrast to the ever mysterious humans who lived in the city.
しかし現実だ。
As much as he wanted to deny the reality he was facing, he could not help but recall Kumari's story. She had said to try and be nice to the bird the next time he saw it. Okay, I guess that's why Sojiro earlier didn't really have any, what is the word for that? Compassion? Because this is what the bird is doing to him? According to her, any rare or one-of-a-kind creature must be accordingly feel very lonely.
座れって言ってるのに仕方っすか。でも椅子ないっすねここ。じゃあ立ってるっす。小坊主だけに廊下に立ってるのがお似合いっす。あれ、今うまいこと言ったんすかね自分。
The bird perched itself on the telephone receiver, seemingly worn out from all the flapping. Sojiro was dumbfounded. Listening in silence to the bird's chatter was his way of expressing his denial.
"長いっす。プロイ歴長いっすよ。舞女神の頃からアリスさんに仕えてるっす。なんで青いかとかどうでもいいっす。
When the goddess mum was around.
特技はズバリ探偵役と被害者役。でも探偵である自分が真っ先にコロコロするんで、誰が自分を殺したか結局誰もわからないっす。
プロイ、待ってくれ。それには聞き覚えがある。プロイって何なんだ？
何なんだと言われても困るっす。エロいとか役いいとかの最上級じゃないっすか。
Thusly, the conversation began between the two most powerless residents of the Kuwanji estate. Humankind and birdkind, able to understand one another after all. Sojiro was tired of letting the bird get to him, fully aware that ignoring it took more energy than it was worth. Filled with a sense of resignation, by the time he finally did make an attempt to interject, both parties' guards were firmly down. Sojiro was accused on how rare the bird was, while Robin was focused on his showdown with his rival that was to be eliminated at all costs.
いいっすよ細けいことは。そんなことよりマイ天使アリスさんの話をするっす。
なんとアリスって天使なのか？
It was an impressive sign of progress that he did not need to ask what an angel was.
ヒユっす。自分にとって天使のような存在ってことっす。下界の喧騒とか自分の言葉をガン無視するところとかマジ天使。アリスさんは神聖不可侵にして冷酷非道。舞女神であったところの母君とはちょっと毛色が違うっす。正直母君ちょっと育て方間違ったっすね。
そうか。そりゃアリスにもお母さんはいるんだよな。この家にはいないようだけど。
イエス。悲しいことに見まかられたっす。あの頃は前衛の鳥が鳴いたっす。アリスさんに負けないぐらい美しかったっす。後でアルバムとか見るっすか？6ペンスで手を打つっすよ。
What? Her mom was even more smashing than Alice. Got's photos later if you like. What is this bird talking about? Come on, man.
いや、そういうのは本人の許しがないと。
Sojiro said earnestly as he tilted his head. The reason for his unease was also due to the fact that he had grown more interested in Alice than before. Despite his detached and passive attitude, he was still a young man like any other, after all.
イエス、それはそうっすね。お前シャバ像の割にいいこと言うっす。人の過去花とかみだりにしちゃいけないっす。
This bird is gonna make the game much more fun now.
ところでアリスさんの子供時代の話とかしていいっすか？自分シャバ像の知らないアリスさんを赤裸々にアピールして精神的上位に立ちたいっす。
He's selling secrets as well.
あ、いや、だからそういう話は。
安心しろっす。アリスさんには黙っておいてやるっすから。まずはあれっすね。自分とアリスさんが初めて出会った時のメモリーを聞くっすよ。アリスさん見えて友達一人しかいなかったっすから、もっぱら自分が話し相手っつうか。ほら壁相手にカコーンカコーンってピンポン玉打ち返すゲーム、あんな感じっす。アリスさんのメモリーはおよそ14年分。じゃあ1年目からいくっすよ。
あ、いや、だから。
いくっすよー。もう誰も自分を止められないっす。
This bird was trouble. The word bird-brained and taken on a whole new meaning to Sojiro. If he were struck here listening any longer, he had the feeling he might hear something he would not be able to unhear.
すまない。そろそろいいかな。
With a wave of his hand, he attempted to flee to the attic above the second floor.
ちょ待つっす。ここからがいいところなのになんで去るっすか。スカーレット・オハラっすか。激動の主人公気取りっすか。そのあたり自分なんか納得いかないっす。まだうちに入ったばかりの新参者がなんでアリスさんの視線を独り占めしてるっすか。許せないっすけど、その秘訣を教えてほしいっす。切実に。自分本気出したらすごいっすよ。
何？
Halfway up the stairs already, Sojiro quickly retraced his steps.
君、今のはどういう。
だからアリスさん好きあらばお前を見てるっす。
Whenever Angel Mom has a moment to spare, she starts watching you like a hawk, that's what.
思い出したっすよ。そもそも自分熱視線でサーチされてるからって突き上がるなと釘刺しに来たんす。だいたいその字は何度も自分に助けられてるっす。アリスさんの命令がなかったら今頃その字鏡の中でおだぶつっす。これなんすかね。人間の感情とかわかんないっすけど、魚辺に里とか書くっすかね。
助けられてるって俺が？
まあ殺そうとしてるのもアリスさんっすけどね。アリスさんはこう言ったっす。彼が鏡の中に迷い込みそうになったら助けてあげて、危険なものには近寄らないように誘導もしてあげて。でも思い上がらないことにしずきくん。別にあんたのことが心配なわけじゃもぐら。
Alice is there. It happened in a flash. With a swift, unhesitating strike of her hand, Alice squashed the bird right then and there as it sat on the telephone receiver stand in the foyer. Her pressed palm continued to pin it down. The bird's a crushed form resembled a bright rubber ball, like what a child might play with.
アリスさんくらいっす。そして痛い。体中の血液がくちばしからこう右方向に流れていく感覚とか。
The bird raised a mighty uproar. Look at her, embarrassed now.
これの言うことは気にしないで。
Alice returned to the drawing room, taking the bird with her. Her dark silhouette cloaked in shadow was the complete opposite of the gaudy little bird. Sojiro folded his arms as he stood alone, no less confused than before, and whispered.
こうしてますます疑問は増えていくのだった。
True. up at the night sky, visible through the skylight. But yeah, it's fun though. I wish that we could see more of that bird. Like I find the bird very funny. And the conversation earlier we had, right? With the passenger pigeons and Martha. I found it interesting. Honestly, I like conversations like that, even though it's not really what do you call this, connected to the story in any way, I guess. But it was a nice 30-minute conversation between them, right? Sojiro and his friend there. So that was pretty cool. So anyways, we are gonna continue this and do more of Witch on the Holy Night in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.